It's the quintessential setup of a rural Indian ghost story. An arrogant urban traveler arrives in a village, ignores the urgent warnings of the local elder, and decides to take a shortcut through the dark woods. Halfway down the muddy path, his modern lifeline, his flashlight, flickers and dies, leaving him entirely alone in the dark. What follows are the classic, terrifying encounters we all recognize. The traveler might hear the slow sobs of a weeping woman in a white sari, or stumble into a completely off-grid village that has seemingly been abandoned for decades. We usually brush these tales off as simple campfire fictions. They act as convenient superstitions designed to scare children into staying in bed and to keep travelers from wandering off dangerous paths at night. Look closely at the specific details of these narratives, and a different pattern emerges. These local legends operate as disguised historical archives, actively preserving the memories of real-world traumas. This chart shows what anthropologists call the folklore archive. In rural regions operating without formal written histories or trustworthy justice systems, supernatural storytelling became the primary method for documenting unpunished crimes. This structure specifically requires a modern, rational outsider to enter the narrative. They act as the catalyst. By stumbling blindly into the supernatural legend, they force the buried truth of the original crime back to the surface. These rural landscapes use supernatural horror as a specialized system for documenting unpunished human atrocities. Take the legend of the haunted people tree path in Rajanpur. A city dweller named Ajay decides to save time by taking a shortcut through a dense, muddy forest, only to come face to face with the ghost of a woman named Radha. The details of the encounter are visceral. Radha appears in a blood-soaked white sari, her face a mangled ruin, completely missing its eyes. She is trapped in a loop, aggressively seeking the person who killed her. A local tantric eventually reveals the grounded reality behind the haunting. Radha's murderer was a mortal man, her own childhood lover, Mohan, who betrayed and killed her purely out of greed. During his life, Mohan entirely escaped the law. He continued to live among the villagers, facing zero legal or societal punishment for a brutal domestic murder. In the absence of a court, the folklore steps in as a localized cosmic justice system. The community weaves this terrifying legend to ensure the perpetrator is eternally hunted by collective memory. The legal system failed, so the ghost takes over the prosecution. The ubiquitous trope of the vengeful woman in white serves a distinct societal function. It operates as a cultural memorial for marginalized victims of intimate partner violence, ensuring their stories survive long after their murderers walk free. We see this exact dynamic scale up to cover mass casualties in another local legend. A traveler named Arush is stranded at a jungle highway stop and wanders into an unlit off-grid village. He's sheltered for the night by a mysterious local named Kishan, who recounts a terrifying piece of local history. In 1946, the power dynamics of the British Raj were maintained by the complicity of local leaders, enforcing imperial rule to protect their status. The violence in the village triggers when a British viceroy demands a local girl named Rupa. Instead of submitting, the community bands together and refuses to hand her over to the officer. The retaliation is absolute. To appease his British superiors, the corrupt village chief arrives with soldiers on the exact night of Rupa's wedding. They douse the homes in petrol, lock the doors, and burn the entire village alive. A state-sanctioned massacre of this scale would never be recorded in official police logs. British history books would simply erase the settlement from the map. With no official record, the surrounding communities had only one tool to document the atrocity. By branding the ruins as a cursed, haunted village, they ensured the memory of the massacre would be passed down orally through the generations. An abandoned settlement in these stories serves a highly specific function. It acts as a mythological crime scene, keeping the memory of colonial erasure alive long after the physical evidence has turned to ash. Look at how both of these narratives resolve in the present day. In Ajay's story, a tantric manages to temporarily subdue Radha's spirit, but the ritual leaves a deep, smoking black mark, permanently burned into the trunk of the ancient tree. To find himself entirely alone in the ruins. Beside him on the floor is a wedding invitation, dated December 22, 1946. He realizes the man who sheltered him, Kishan, was the ghost of the murdered groom. That black rot on the peepal tree and Keishan's 1946 wedding card are physical traces of an unclosed loop, evidence that the original violence remains unresolved long after the participants are gone. The ghosts in these tales are never truly exorcised. They linger because the historical and societal wounds they represent have never been given proper justice or closure. For the urban travelers, these are terrifying anomalies to be escaped, but for the villages, they are permanent records. These ghosts persist because the specific injustice that birthed them was never addressed by a court or recorded in a history book. The next time you hear a local myth about a cursed path or a haunted ruin, do not just ask if the place is haunted. You must ask, who was wronged here, and who are we trying not to forget?